Recently, it's come to my attention that the concept of a classic piece of entertainment is rapidly blurring. People are becoming increasingly less aware of what makes a classic, and why those pieces of media are deserving of their title. Which begs the question, what actually makes a classic? But more specifically, what makes a classic anime? To be put simply, the dictionary defines a classic as a work of art, of recognized and established value, and in anime terminology, this would translate to a truly genre-defining show that has greatly impacted the modern landscape. A show that exemplifies the best of its kind and pushes the limits so as to leave a massive cultural impression. There's already a common consensus for a list of classic anime series, inclusive of Evangelion, Trigun, Cowboy Bebop, and so forth, but theoretically speaking, that's simply just an objective outlook on classic anime. Which means for us that a classic anime is a purely subjective term that everyone can formulate an opinion on that may or may not differ from others. What most people fail to realize is that because of this subjective outlook, there shouldn't be a cutoff nor time threshold for a classic piece of media. I know many people are led to believe that if a show is stuck around for more than a decade, for instance, only then can it be regarded as a classic, when in actuality that's entirely false, because this implies that great shows suddenly become a classic as soon as they reach their 10th birthday, which is both illogical and unreasonable. So on to the main debate. How can a classic be defined? Since this is a subjective perspective, it really does depend on the person involved. But for me, there's a few criteria the anime has to obey for me to even consider its relationship with being a classic. Firstly, the anime needs to hold up well against time. This remains an issue for shows with noticeably older animation. It's no secret that bad cinematography and animation can impact the quality of a show. However, where the true beauty of a show lies is within its game-changing attributes that have been an imitation for other works of that respective genre. A key example of this is Serial Experiments Lain, an anime exploring the complicated and ever-blurring vision of reality and cyberspace, where identity, consciousness, and perception are concepts that take on new meanings. Despite its dated appearance, this show still acts as a steady example for newcoming anime due to its sheer quality, by which the animation can be overlooked even 20 years on. Secondly, we must consider the influence and cultural impact of the anime in question. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Cowboy Bebop, and Evangelion instantly come to mind, seeing that they have inspired many anime and even non-anime works of fiction, and also left an impressionable mark on the cultural side of things, and amassing huge cult followings due to their bold and distinct styles that have yet to be replicated. But then again, wouldn't this mean that Sword Art Online is technically a classic, with its contribution to the isekai genre? To which I want to respond by using sodium hypochlorite as maple syrup for your pancake, except this time, my throat! Which nicely brings us into our third point. The show needs to actually be good. Preference of anime is evidently subjective, but for a classic to have its title, it has to be objectively good, or at least be overwhelmingly impressionable and have a clear measure of quality. Because I'll be honest with you, I'd much rather eat gravel than live in a world where Sword Art Online is considered a classic anime. Now, I also feel that part of a classic living up to its title must come down to its accessibility, on which a huge issue arises in regards to a certain anime that's seemingly been chained by what I like to call Netflix's hell. Very few shows are capable of blending such reputable and stylistic concepts to enact the improvised, exaggerated elegance that is so well cemented behind Production IG's Great Pretender. A well-crafted, inspired piece of art, envoying ingenuity and meshing together dashes of jazz with an unmatched swagger, only to be rivaled by the likes of Cowboy Bebop and other timeless classics. featuring a vibrant and fresh cast of provocative and expertly written conmen, with enthralling development and a lot of raw emotion, for it to all amount to an uneasy and unpredictable crescendo that is yet to be replicated by any works in the medium. Netflix's Great Pretender is a true gem, the very definition of a modern classic that hits every nail so precisely that it's actually rather scary. A distinctive and refined beauty, being released this year alone and yet receiving little to no recognition is quite literally a crime. And although I'm sure this lovable cast could scam their way out of this one, the damage has already been done, and the fault relies on Netflix and not the promotional team working with Production IG and the anime directly. You see, this anime joins the rankings of Carole and Tuesday, and many others, in its limited accessibility to many, because it's locked up by Netflix's exclusivity rules, meaning only those in specific regions with fully paid subscriptions will have access. I'm sure pirating is another valid option to get your hands on this one, but not everyone is willing to do so, and prefers the use of anime-specific streaming sites, like Funimation or Crunchyroll, to enjoy their shows. This already creates a major problem in its marketing. And what doesn't help either is the skepticism and negative response many people rightfully have when Netflix is involved in anime, judging from their questionable to downright horrendous track record with some exclusive anime, which undoubtedly turns people off from this great piece of media. And because this was disallowed from broadcasting on Japanese television, this meant that Great Pretender is reduced to the ONA status, standing for Original Net Animation, rather than TV, a factor that also massively deducts its viewer base, meaning shows like this will never truly attain the recognition they deserve. Okay, so to summarize. Classic pieces of media will forever be well embedded into pop culture and used as examples and inspiration for many works to come, anime or not. We've looked at how the identification of a classic anime is purely subjective. However, no timestamp is necessary for a show to be branded as a classic either. In addition, we've also looked at the process of defining a classic anime, going from its test against time, the cultural impact it has had, and the simple fact that the show needs to be objectively good to be deserving of its classic fame. And while we're at it, why not check out Great Pretender? I really can't sing its praises enough, and it's a real shame that accessibility is the reason people are being deprived of such a masterclass show that has genuinely proven to me that modern classics actually exist, and was pretty much the reason behind this video. Anyways, I think I'm gonna go to hibernate in my cave and crawl out after another 2 months to make a script for my next project. So, until then, this concludes another video essay.